Okay, we're gonna start recording here. I don't know how good this live stream is right now, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record it, and the off chance that the live stream isn't working because the internet here is not good, to put it lightly. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me close here, and we will start in 1 second. Let me see. I don't know. No, the camera is not seeing. So never mind. We don't need the camera. That's alright. Okay. 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 So we're gonna start. Okay. The idea today is I'm gonna be talking a little bit less because I did a little bit less in these projects, right? As most of you know, I have a team of 6 mentors that are helping me with the projects, and they did a great portion of this project while I supervised them. Okay, so my idea for this, right, is that I'm gonna give the general overview. There's a couple of them that won't be able to make it, as far as I know, and I'll be taking over their parts. Okay, and that is more or less how this is gonna go down. I'm gonna introduce everything, I'm gonna give a general overview, I'm gonna give some tips, and then we're gonna proceed to explaining the parts that are different. Okay, because this uses the same base Frogger did. Okay, so I'm not gonna go over the game loop, I'm not gonna go over the states, I'm not gonna go over how images work. Okay, these are all things that stayed exactly the same as Frogger did. So I'm gonna first give you a gameplay, then I'm gonna address a bug, right, that some of you might be encountering, the heap out of memory. Okay, that was a problem that I thought we had fixed, but an overview on our part, we didn't see it and it escaped. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna give you all is a demo, so you can all see how it's supposed / meant to be seen. Okay, let me raise the volume here a little bit. I don't know if this is gonna blow up all of our ears, but okay. Let's see, let's run it. And this should be what you guys downloaded. Okay? I haven't altered anything. This is exactly what I upload. Okay? Let me lower the music. Right? We have this. And when we start loading. Give it a second. Now we have a little character, right? Okay, so you also have the shift key. If you press shift and you walk, you can walk slower. Okay? You have this little smoky thing here, and you have these little guys that follow you around whenever you're inside of a specific... Yeah, right? And if you touch any of them or you let them touch you, you enter a fight state. The fight state, you have 3 main options that you can cycle through them. You can see your health, you can see your mana, you can see your skill. Your skill starts as none. Nevertheless, if you press skill, you do have a skill. Okay? And I'll be explaining the specs and what the specs mean afterwards. Okay? For now, all you need to know is that skill does that little animation. Once I use something, it pauses, and then the enemy picks one, and he chooses too. Okay? I can defend. And if I defend, my defense raises. Each character has a hidden list of attributes. I forgot what's the word for them. Stats. There you go. It's been a while. And they have a hidden list of stats. They all have strength. They all have intelligence. It's like 10, 12 of them. Okay. When you raise defense, the defense stat goes up by 20, I believe it is, or something along the line. Okay. And when you press attack, you get your attack animation, you attack, if he dies, you get some experience points. These experience points and your stats, you can see them in the pause menu. If you go to your stats, press enter, so you have all of your stats, your health updates in real time, so does your mana and your experience. Okay, there's your magic resistance, constitution, accuracy, evasion, okay, so on and so forth. The animation, you can cancel it midway too by just pressing escape. Okay, you cycle through the menu with your WASD. As per usual, title takes you to title and quit quits. Okay, pretty straightforward. You resume, you go back. I beat him, so that little guy is no longer there. Okay, there's invisible walls all around the island. There's no way you can escape the island. And if you go into this little mountain, you're inside a cave. Okay? Entonces, you have a little guy here. This guy is a little bit more strong. You have this little totem here, which you can sneak behind. That's not important whatsoever, but I think it looks pretty cool, so I wanted to show it to you guys. You can't go and kill yourself in the lava, because it wouldn't make any sense. And then there's this little guy here. Whee! His name is Aquarius Dweller, right? As you can see, he's already tougher. He has more health. Right? So they all have independent. They have a different name. The one outside was Common Rat. I think so. I'm not sure. Because I don't remember when it was added. Right, so let's see. We'll figure it out. Oh, I'm out of mana, so I can't use kill. If I don't die, that is. I think I died. I did not die. There we go. Yep, you leveled up. Okay. And now if we go here, you can see you're level 2. You have 100 experiences that went overboard. Okay, and so on and so forth. I think the other stats actually also went up. Yeah, because defense was 16, so now it's 17. Okay, so we go press resume. We can also exit the cave. I don't know why I'm down here. The guy is not there anymore. And we can exit through the back and we'll be up here. Okay? Is it me or does this look off? Like, I don't know, I'm seeing it from the side, so I don't know if the screen looks odd, like it's zooming in or zooming out. Might be me looking at it from the side. Okay. So say that's pretty much how it's supposed to look. If I go to title, I have this. If I quit. Okay? Little tips and tricks for you. You have over here this debug key. If you change this to true, right? That's the first tip and trick that I'll give you guys. If you change that to true, and we load up the game, you can see all of the collisions. Okay, you can see the player's collision below. You can see the area where they'll follow you. You can see I walk faster because nobody wants to debug going really slowly. You have your little walls. See, oh, they fixed it. See, there was a way that well, there you go. Whee! I'm unstoppable. Yeah, it's a debug, so it's like you're not really meant to go up here. See, there you go. You're not really meant to go up there. Also, this guy shows his mana, and I don't think he's supposed to. Pero another thing that you can see is that you can see up here the stats of the enemy, and you can see your stats over there, and whose turn is it. Okay, that's another feature from debug mode. Okay, so if I press defense, right now my defense is 16. If I press defense, it goes up to 31. Okay, which is, and now it went back down because my turn is over. Okay, right, so I can quit from here. That's that right there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the demo. And the first thing, right, okay, I want to be explained is how the map works, right? The map works a little bit iffy. You guys don't need to completely understand how the map works because for most things that you have to add, you have something to let yourself be guided through. Okay, but it'll help you, right? It'll help you if you understand how the map works because technically what's moving is not the player but the map. When I'm moving the map and everything on the map, and the player stays in the center. Okay, so if you want to come up here and explain what you did, okay, this is Sergio. Okay, and he's gonna be taking you through how the map is scaled and how the map is moved around and everything that has to do with the player input. Okay.
Hello, mi nombre es Sergio. Voy a hablar sobre varios aspectos del código donde yo implementé cosas. Por ejemplo, las entidades tenemos el base entity. Yo puedo hablar del base entity.
Everything you quoted.
Pues el base entity es básicamente como un fundamental base para cualquier tipo de entidad que esté en el juego. Vamos a decir que ustedes quieren hacer un dragón en el juego, por ejemplo. Pues el dragón tiene que ser una entidad primero que nada. Hay ciertas bases para lo que ustedes quieran hacer. Por ejemplo, si ustedes quieren una entidad que tenga animación, pues está el Base Dynamic Entity, por ejemplo. Y eso lo que tiene es lo de Get Current Animation Frame y todas esas cosas. Si quieren hacer una entidad que sea hostil, pues existe el Base Hostile Entity en el código, la cual lo setea. Pues si quieren hacer Enemy 2, por ejemplo, pues tienen ahí el Base Hostile Entity que va a extender el Enemy 2, ¿verdad? Ya ellos hacen hierarchy, actually. So sí, en el specs, and this is something you guys should know, les toca una parte que es hacer un static entity en la cueva, ¿verdad? En la parte del frente. Pues ahí le chotearon que es static, significa, y hay un entity que es base static entity, significando, no tiene nada en verdad, pero es básicamente para que ustedes se dejen llevar de lo que tiene estas dos. Por ejemplo, Smokehouse es la casita que ven en el overworld, que lo que tiene es una animación, pero está ahí quietecita todo el tiempo, que es algo que, o sea, es similar a lo que les están pidiendo ustedes. Entonces, todo, por ejemplo, vamos a ir a Base Hostile Entity. El Base Hostile Entity es una entidad hostil que brega de alguna manera u otra con el player, ¿verdad? Entonces, una entidad hostil tiene que moverse. So, si van aquí, por eso es que la entidad hostil se extiende el Dynamic Entity. Una entidad dinámica que se mueve tiene que ser una entidad primero que nada. So, sale de esto. So, todas las entidades en el juego tienen el Base Entity como el super mega class. Y aquí les dice como el heart de lo que tiene cada entidad. Tiene un tick method que va a correr 60 veces por segundo. Tiene el render para dibujar cositas. Tiene lo que, si ustedes bregaron con Frogger, ¿verdad? Maybe se hagan familiarize con lo que es el get collision, que es un rectángulo que van a tener las entidades de ustedes si quieren. Esto es un approach y pueden utilizar ese rectángulo para pues, lo que ustedes encuentren useful, un tool. Por ejemplo, el tool más useful que se usa un montón aquí es lo de intersect, que si tú tienes si ustedes tienen un cuadrado y tienen otro cuadrado aquí, vamos a decir que este es el player, el momento en que los dos se toquen en algún punto acá, esa variable que dice if player rectangle intersects with esta entidad que tiene su propio rectángulo, pues eso va a salir cierto y hacen la statement que ustedes quieran. Este método es useful, es un approach para algunos specs even. So yeah, keep that in mind, keep it noted. Cada entidad tiene su propio Y offset y el X offset, ¿verdad? Entonces, vamos a ir más específico a lo que es los static entity, ¿verdad? Si no me equivoco, eso está en uno de los specs de ustedes. Ajá. Pues, en el mundo, el player nunca se mueve. El player siempre está quieto. No sé si te diste cuenta de eso. El player siempre está en el medio de la pantalla y lo que se está moviendo es lo que está atrás. Es la imagen. Lo que está atrás siempre se está moviendo. ¿Entiendes? Entonces, eso X offset, ese Y offset, es basically, almost literally, la posición de la entidad que tú estás buscando con respecto a la imagen. It's like the true offset. Por ejemplo, mira, vamos a decir que yo soy el player. Pues detrás de mí está el canvas, la imagen, ¿verdad? Cuando yo digo me voy a mover para la derecha, el player no se está moviendo hacia la idea que se está moviendo. Lo que está pasando es que la imagen se está moviendo así. Está moviendo así. Y tú lo que quieres es que si tu entidad, vamos a decir que el Smokehouse, si tú quieres que buscarle la posición del Smokehouse, pues búscamela, ponla un system.out en un tick, búscame la exposición del smokehouse. Y cuando el player se mueva para la derecha, tú vas a ver que el X se va a mover para acá.
O sea, que técnicamente el X option es que mueve.
No, tú obtienes el movimiento, no lo mueves, tú obtienes el movimiento de cada entidad. So, básicamente, para simplificártelo, you get el X position y Y position de las cosas. También, el spec que yo leí, que ustedes van a tener que implementar, lo de la cueva, que va a haber una cuevita al frente, van a tener un static entity, entonces... Un Snorlax que no te deja pasar, exacto, algo así. Pueden hasta poner una animación y todo si quieren. Vamos a ver clases estáticas de base static para que ustedes lo tengan como referencia, ¿verdad? Para cuando lo vayan a hacer. Esto es IntelliJ, whatever. Pues vamos a coger por ejemplo el Smokehouse. El Smokehouse lo vimos que está en el overworld, ¿verdad? Vamos a ver qué tiene. Tiene un rectángulo, una animación, tiene un width y un height que lo seteamos aquí, y un X y Y position como parámetros. Ese X y Y position que ustedes que son como un parámetro que no saben de dónde viene ahora mismo, simplemente para no ir a ese otro lado, simplemente sepan que ese es el X position y Y position de esa entidad. Después se va a explicar de dónde ese parámetro sale y its usages. Vamos a decir que yo quiero hacer tres smokehouses en el juego. Pues tú tienes que setear que cada, vamos a decir que el primero tú lo quieres en 100 as an X position, el segundo tú lo quieres en 300 y el tercero tú lo quieres en 600. Pues esto básicamente está seteando que cada uno de esos tres smokehouses tenga su propio X offset, su propio X position. Eso es importante que cuando te haga una entidad estática, seteen para que cada uno de ellas tenga su respectivo X offset y Y offset. Esto crea una animación, el constructor, ¿verdad? Y la animación del smokehouse es básicamente como 5, lo que serían frames, que son 5 o 6 imágenes del smokehouse, y esta es la velocidad. Esto es un array de imágenes, básicamente. Y algo que es very, very, very important, que ustedes van a tener que take into account cuando hagan el static entity, es que there's two kinds of X positions en el juego, en Y positions. Está el del overworld y está el del inworld. El inworld, nosotros dividimos el juego en dos cosas, en el overworld y el inworld. El inworld es lo que es la cueva, el town que ustedes van a hacer y otra cosa ahí que está en el juego. Y el overworld, pues el overworld lo que ustedes ven cuando entran después del main menu. Pues cuando tú le das, ok, mira, vamos a hacer esto. Voy a quitar esto de aquí y van a ver lo que pasa cuando yo simplemente le doy un X position y un Y position. Anda madre. Van a ver lo que pasa cuando le doy un X position y un Y position, que es simplemente dos constantes. Y este es Smokehouse, si no me equivoco. Sí. Van a ver. ¿Ven eso? Esos son valores constantes que tiene el juego with respect to the screen. Basically, bien low key, pero el player tiene eso. Miren, yo me muevo para la izquierda, el player nunca se está moviendo, el player siempre está en medio de la pantalla, el player tiene eso. Lo que no tiene eso es ahora mismo el smokehouse, porque el player y el smokehouse ahora mismo tienen valores constantes. Tienen valores que son 50 y 50, y no importa dónde tú le des, qué botón tú te muevas, siempre va a estar en el 50-50 con respecto al screen. Cuando tú añades este método, lo que tú básicamente estás haciendo es diciéndole, no lo quiero que sea con respecto al screen quiero que sea con respecto al overworld que yo tengo.
Yeah, important detail like que tienen que tener en mente que there's two displacements. There's the big displacement, which is the map displacement, and the in-world, right?
Yes.
So you have to think, where is it? Is this going to be in the map, or is it going to be in a cave, or in a city, or somewhere, right? If it's in-world, then you use the in-world displacement. If it's a map, you just use the normal displacement, right? But because of this, when you're dealing with the player, you always have to check where the player is to know which displacement you're gonna use, right? Because if you're gonna add some functionality to the player, that the player can draw something or summon something both in the map and in the world, then you need to check in which one he is. So you need to have, if he's on the world, then draw it with adding the normal displacement. Else, so anywhere else that's not in the world map, then you use the other displacement.
So hay un player if it's in area.
Exactly.
Vamos a hacer uno para cuando está en overworld y en inworld.
No, nosotros nos hicimos cargo que como hay dos, tenemos el map state y el in-world state. El map state es lo que brega con el overworld, el in-world state es lo que brega con la cueva y con los towns que ustedes van a implementar. Nosotros hicimos a cargo de que si ustedes están en el overworld, pues ustedes ya tengan handle.getX displacement. Pero si ustedes están en el in-world, pues hay otro método que que está aquí, que es el handler.getX in-world displacement, que es el que brega con las entidades que está dentro de un in-world.
More towards your question, I'm guessing you were asking more specifically about the players in area. That's because what if I have multiple areas? What if I have a cave and a city? They're both the same state. They're both in-world state, but they're different areas. So you need to check that the player and this object is in the same area in order to render it. Because you don't want to have a cave in your city and then have this house be drawn in your cave, right? So the player knows at every point in which area he is. So you need to check if you're doing something in the state. You also need to check that the player is in that area too. Because if he's in the city instead of the cave, then you don't want to draw specific items. So that's why this house is only drawn if the player is in the area that the house is. That's what it's doing there.
El spoiler sería, o sea, en el mismo lado del centro, so, es lo que está haciendo el facing, pero lo que está moviendo es el background.
El mapa, exacto. Pretty much, si yo me voy a mover para la izquierda, cojo el mapa y lo muevo hacia la izquierda. Y lo muevo en la dirección opuesta y hago la animación. That gives the impression that it's moving.
Pues sí, ahí está ese punto very important de los
Que vamos a bregar es el inworld. El
Yes.
map state no vamos a tocarlo.
Sí, lo van a tocar.
el map state, pues yo no.
Yes, because, for example, how are you going to enter the city?
Ah, ok, está
See, so you need to add the entrance of the city, que después le vamos a explicar más o menos cómo funcionan los walls, que después se lo explico yo con calma.
Really bad explanation. Eso sería como que if the player intersects with the wall, just enter the.
Pretty much. There's already
Literally.
pseudo ways to do that, though, with the code.
El player es lo que brega, tiene un método que se llama check for walls. Ese método que tiene el player que se llama check for walls is your you know, that's really important porque creo, si no me equivoco, a través del handler que ustedes van a coger, porque el handler está en casi todos los lados del código, no sé si se han dado cuenta.
Second
Es-
progress.
It's literally
Ajá, exacto. Entonces, si ustedes tienen las paredes del overworld y el player lo que hace es, ok, vamos a hacer un enhanced for loop que pase por todas las paredes que tenga el overworld y chequeame si el player está tocando a uno de ellos o a dos o whichever está
cada
tocando.
wall is separate. Tiene su propio static.
Chequéate aquí, cada wall tiene su propio.
Calma, stop jumping around.
No, él me dijo que si cada. Déjame buscarte
Wall
aquí.
is a class. You create instances of the class.
Ay, donde la.
Walls is just a fancy rectangle.
Exacto.
That's all it is. It
Exacto.
literally extends rectangle.
Sí, porque lo vi cuando estábamos la forma que puedes ver los rectangles, es como un rectangle bien estirado.
Hey.
Pretty much. Es como que essentially it extends rectangle, so anything you can do with a rectangle, you can do with the wall.
Okay, so donde queramos entrar, ese rectangle que queremos tocar.
Pretty much, it's like walls are extends rectangle, has same information as rectangle, but you added a string.
Me otra duda. Cuando Pero cuando creamos el town ya existe y hay que añadirle cosas.
We'll get there.
Ok, está llamado.
Mira el array list con todas las paredes en esta cosa, por ejemplo. Estas son todas las paredes que tenemos.
O sea, pero el debug mode, la representación del wall era, por ejemplo, que tiene el player debajo de los pies, que era como un cubito.
No,
Eso-
the wall simplemente is a rectangle. So when the debug mode opens up, what it does is I have a bunch of if statements hidden through the code. If debug mode is on, g.draw all the walls. ¿Verdad? Un for loop que vaya por cada wall en la lista, g.draw ese wall.
Y las
Which you're
paredes.
gonna see más antes.
Las paredes están en el borde de la arena para que no pases por la arena.
Also, it's just the black line.
Exactly, es como que para que tú no pases por todos esos lugares. Eso es lo que hace
It's an invisible wall.
Lo que me di cuenta es que el debug mode, you like classify like a wall you're not supposed to go and one that you are, because there was like a wall that was like pink.
Oh yeah, but that's
Yeah.
just visually. I just literally, if this has this name, set color to pink.
Esta pared por aquí, por ejemplo, se llama door cave. Esa pared tiene un diferente tipo de pared que la otra. All these ones right here, they're called walls. So cuando en el player, el método que te había mencionado que dice que se llama check for walls, ese método también me está chequeando. Es más, mira ahí. Míralo aquí. This is the bread and butter. Chequéate si el jugador está en una cueva o en el town. Si no lo está, ok, pues cógeme todas las paredes que están en el mapa. Ok, ahora para todas las paredes que están en el mapa, chequéate. El next area, eso es un rectángulo que tiene el player. Que no sé si se dieron cuenta, cuando el player está corriendo, tenía un rectangulito al frente de él. Por todos lados. Pues esa cosa es el next area rectangle. Take notes of that because you'll probably use that. Entonces ahí dice, si ese rectángulo interseca con la pared que está en el array list ahora mismo, pues chequéame qué tipo de pared es. Si la pared es el tipo wall, que es el typical type, pues push the player back, ¿verdad? Si la pared es empieza con la palabra door, ¿verdad? So esto es ya de string class stuff. Si la pared empieza con la clase, con la palabra door, pues ahí es que se entra otro meollo que es, ok, ¿qué door es? ¿Es este door o es este door? ¿Verdad? Ahora mismo hay dos. Ustedes van a tener que hacer otro.
Un door town y que llame entonces el código.
Que tenga algo similar a eso. Exacto. Entonces, si el door es la cueva, si el jugador intersecó con una pared que se llama door algo, pues córreme estas líneas de código que me van a cambiar de mundo. Y si ustedes van, exacto, y ese es para el overworld. Lo mismo pasa, que ustedes van a tener que hacer esto, si está en la cueva. Aquí está cavearea.walls. Esto es una manera que nosotros dijimos, ¿cómo vamos a conseguir todas las paredes que tenemos en la cueva? Si se ven acá arriba, esto fue un approach. El approach de aquí fue usar el handler, porque el handler está en todos los lados. De esa manera conseguimos las paredes que están en el mapa, en el overworld. Esta otra manera se usó para conseguir todas las paredes que están en el cave area, que eso es un public static array list thing. Y pues básicamente lo mismo, las mismas líneas de código o algo similar. Si una pared, empújamelo para atrás. Si es el start exit, pues sí, todas esas líneas de código. Y esto es para salir de la cueva. Y esto es aquí, cambiamos de state, exacto.
Okay, so now we're gonna escoger por el orden de código, ¿verdad? Porque otra cosa que cambió fue el menu, ¿verdad? Se dan cuenta mucho en el menu es que you no longer click, right? So you have your main menu that sets the position of the different things that you can interact with, right? So this is the X position, okay, and that just deals with the positioning of the things that you see on screen, okay? Entonces, what we do here, este menu, si no me equivoco, el que lo hizo fue Jovan. Ok, entonces we have a selector. A selector is the little ball that you see on the side. That selector pretty much just indica en cuál coordenada yo estoy parada y dependiendo de esa coordenada es lo que yo voy a hacer. ¿Verdad? Entonces si yo bajo a select, ¿verdad? No, es que está choose, míralo ahí. Ups, se me perdió. I lost it again. If we go to choose, essentially what they're saying is that since there's only two things in the main menu, there's the start and there's the options. I check if the selector X position equals the selector dot menu X position, and this Y position equals this. So si es una coordenada específica, porque ya yo sé en qué coordenada fue que yo puse esa palabra, pues set loading to true, change the music, play it, put it to loop, and then change the state to the map state, right? So it's more or less the same thing. The difference is that now we're working more specifically with coordinates, right? If you wanted to add a third option, then you would need to add an else if with the specific coordinates of where you put that button, right? And you need to work with the selector class. If I'm not mistaken, if we go up here to the selector class knows all the positions that it can be at, okay? Some of these are for the pause menu, some of these are for the main menu, but it knows every position that it can be in. So you will need to add some integers, you will need to add the list, and then you would se dejan llevar más o menos por cómo funciona, but this is just coordinates, okay? Entonces, what que dice aquí, if I press A, well, first I check if I'm in the pause state, right? If I'm in the pause state, there's more options, so I want to do it differently, right? So if I am in the pause state and I press D, I play this effect and I check if I'm already in the last selection, and if I am, just set it back to the first one. If I press A, I do it the opposite way. If I'm in the first one, I take to the last one. Eso para dar la ilusión that I'm cycling. Okay, and then the same with the main menu. With the main menu, there's only two of them. So I put it so W and A gives you the same result, and S and A give you the other result. Okay, so here you would just need to add another else if statement if you're going to use the selector somewhere else. Okay, so following the code, if we press enter in the start, it'll send us to the map, right? The map, when it was created, it was given an initial displacement, right? This displacement, if you move it around, technically it will change where the player will spawn, right? Because if I move the image more to the left, so the player is always in the middle of the screen, now the player will spawn somewhere else, right? So by changing these two variables, you can change where the player is spawning. This is not the best approach because this way you're doing the map relative to the player instead of the player relative to the map. Right? The player's location is depending on how you move the map, when it should be the other way around. The player should always spawn in a specific set of the map. But for matter and purposes of this project, it works. Okay? You set those displacements so the handler knows what they are. You put the player there. You create your managers. And this you can ignore for now because this is pretty much what animates the map. But for those who are having the issue of memory heap management, whatever, what you essentially will need to do is pretty much disable this animation, right? Which I'm going to do a quick segue to that. If you're one of the people that are lagging or having any issues with the lag, with the heap, because I use a heap out of memory, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't have this problem. Essentially, what you want to do is that you want to start from the top and you want to find these two, map and scaled map. And you want to change these to 1 and 1, right? Then you want to keep going down until you find these. The map ones, you leave only the 0. Then you keep going down and you find the scale one, right? There's one that says scaled map and I think it's at the end. Right here, scaled map. You want to take these two. You want to also comment them. You want to take these 3 and comment them. You only want to leave 0, 0, and 0. That should be all. Once you do this, it should be fixed. Okay? Boy. So now if I run it, you'll notice that the little grounds that used to move before and the little areas in the surroundings no longer have animation. And that should fix your issue. Okay, so first thing, I'm gonna repeat it once more. You go to the map and you change these to 1, both of them. Next, you find the first map implementation. You comment the last 2. Then you go all the way down. Right, you go all the way down and you look for a scaled image in map. And you comment everything except the one with 0. That is it. Once you do that, the game should go from using 2 rands of memory to using 0.8. Okay? That was a small side thing that I didn't notice while programming. Okay? But, so you can see that mistakes and screw-ups happen to everyone. Okay. That is the main issue. Entonces, a secondary issue that you can, if you want to make it go even faster or lag even less, but it's not really an issue, but it'll help some of you, is that whenever you change the music, don't let it change, right? So we go to the choose, and here we go to everything that has to do with the music, and we comment it out. So when I go to the map, it doesn't change the music, which is a shame because it's amazing music, and you should all hear it. And if I go to the map, when the map goes into the cave, it's another song, right? I think that one's in the player actually. I'll show it to you as we go. Okay, so breaking that parentheses, if we look in the tick, the first thing it's doing is ticking the map, which that was the animation. This no longer is doing anything, so you can technically erase that or comment it out, doesn't matter. Okay, then I say if the game is loading, then pretty much load the game. Tick the world, and that's all you want, because if it's loading, what you want is the world to start all its calculations for a couple seconds before the player and before you draw everything. So if I'm loading, start map counter, it's a second and a half of a loading screen, and tick the world for that second and a half before loading in the player and before loading in the entities and everything of the like. And else, once you stop loading, then just check if they pressed escape in order to check if I'm going to pause menu. And if not, then tick both the world and the entities. Same thing with render. If I'm loading, I draw this image. If I'm not loading, then I fill the background, I draw the image of the map, and then I render all my world, and then I render all my entities. Okay? That's all that's happening in the map state. But as you saw, the map state has something that is called the world manager. So let's see what this world manager does. Okay? Aquí es lo que Sergio le está explicando. Right? When I create my world, I set the handler, my animations, which is, this is an animation. I add my entities, I add the tree, I add the smokehouse, right? I add the different enemies. Enemies, I add them through this method called new enemy, right? Handler has a method called new enemy. Why? Because each enemy is going to have 12 different stats, right? And we don't want to have to call the setter on each one of them manually, right? So I created a method that pretty much does it for you. So if I go here, right, the new enemy, it asks you for a set of images in case that you're going to give it an animation. It asks you for the handler, its position, in what state it's going to be drawn in, right? So if it's the map, I think you write none, right? Somewhere in the enemy class, it tells you what to put as a state. Then you have the name of that enemy and the area, right? So state is map state or in-world state, and area is none if it's in the map, and then cave it's in the cave, and so on and so forth, whatever name you decide to give it. But each area has to know its name, which you'll see when I go into the cave area. And then you give it a type of enemy, which is whatever, this type is the name of the class, right? So our enemy is called enemy 1. That's the name of the class of the enemy that's running around. So since that's the only enemy, but right now todo lo que le está pasando is enemy 1. But if you go and you create another type of enemy, let's say you create a boss or something along the line, then you're going to change the type for that one. So it creates a new one of that type. Right? And then you just give it all of its stats. And then what I'm doing is, if it's enemy 1, then create a new enemy 1, handler, X position, Y position, blah, 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 blah. And then I pretty much set all of them. I set all the things. Es la clase. Así se llama la clase. En vez de llamarle base enemy, lo llamamos enemy 1. That's just mala nomenclatura de nosotros. We were going to change it and we forgot.
So we can change it. Lo que está frente,
Technically.
Lo que está frente aquí, should it be an enemy that we're supposed to fight?
No. Después vamos a ir a la rúbrica, pero no. Entonces, then I just put all the setters. Y eso te hace que tú no tengas que hacerlo. ¿Ok? Entonces, keeping on here, we create our 3 enemies.
Pero eso se está creando solamente un enemigo de esta clase, ¿no?
Exacto, pero lo estoy haciendo 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Aquí I'm doing it 3 times. I say, since this is the world, then entity manager for that entity, handler.new enemy, and then all 3 of them I gave them the same image.
Pues me han llegado 3 enemigos iguales.
Pretty much. Well, they're more or less the same, but different coordinates, and different names, and if I go to the stats are different.
Pero la imagen tiene.
Pero la imagen es la misma porque le pasé la misma imagen.
Okay.
O sea, they're the same because cuando le paso el type of enemy, le estoy pasando la misma clase. So, todos son instancias de la misma clase. Right? They're all instances of the same class, but they're different enemies with different stats, different names, different images, different positions. Okay? And then, I just add my walls. And in the add walls, como le dijo Sergio, you go to your word world, blah, blah, whatever it says there, and you add a new wall. You give it a coordinate, and you give it the type of wall. Right? As you can see, if you want it to be a doorway, then you need to, instead of calling it wall, you call it door. Okay? Entonces, that's pretty straightforward. You have your collide with wall. Right? You collide with wall, como les dijo, it just checks if it intersects. Okay? Entonces, moving string, eso es, como ustedes vieron en el title, tienen el moving string. En el fight scene también tienen su moving string. Pues moving string is just that. Se encarga de mover ese string around the screen. Okay? Entonces, ¿de dónde podemos ir aquí? Aquí podemos ir al fight state. Right? Or we can go to the player actually. Let's explain the player. The player has a lot of variables. Right? Because the player has a certain width and certain height inside of an area, and a different width and different height outside of the area, right? So I need to give it those different heights depending on where I am, right? Then I have the Boolean que I had told you guys, there is an area. Let's see. Let's keep going through here with the animation. These different animations are, they're being used. Esta la hizo Gabriel, yo creo que fue el que hizo las animaciones del player. Y entonces, see, you have the different animations, one for each facing. You have your speed, and you create your new rectangle. Right? Entonces, in your tick, you're only going to tick the player if the game is not loading. This shouldn't be necessary because the entities are never ticking as long as it's loading, but this is just an extra precaution. Okay? So then I level up, I check if the player leveled up, I do the animation, tick, I check, and I update the square that tells me where I'm going to be next, right? Which if I go to this method, all it's doing is checking which way I'm facing, and if I'm facing up, then draw a little square on top. If I'm facing sideways, do one to the side, and so on and so forth. Pretty sure que Sergio explicó eso earlier. Entonces, it moves it. It takes the square and it moves it as you move. Pretty much. Como que él chequea y si cambió, pues lo cambia. Entonces, player input, que lo que hace es verificar if he can move, right? So I start assuming that he can move. Okay? Then I check if the run button is being pressed, en este caso the shift button, change my speed to 2. If it's not being pressed, if I'm in debug, set it to 18. If not, just set it to 8. right? That's the logistic of how to run versus walk. Then I check for walls, right? And then I check, okay, check walls, what it does, él le dio más o menos un overview, que first, check that you're in the same world, okay? Sorry. Then you say, okay, for every single wall, wherever you're at, handler the get world manager the get walls, if the next area intersects with that wall, check if it's a wall and push it, which just lo que hace es ver en qué dirección él está mirando y añadirle velocidad en la dirección opuesta. Okay? And then I check, okay, if it's a door, again, I start assuming that I can move, ¿verdad? Because push back also sets can move to false because I pushed them back, so now I can't move. Well, what I do here is that if it was a door, then tell him he can move again, and then check which door it is, because depending on the door is what you're gonna do to the player, right? If it's the cave one, then save where he used to be, right? This right here, what it does is that it saves where the player used to be in the map, so that when I get outside again, I have the coordinates of where the player used to be, because inside of the cave, I'm moving him around. So I need to know where he was, so when I teleport him back, I set him back to those coordinates. Okay? Then I say, cave area that is in cave true, so the cave knows that the player is in the cave. I change his width and height, so that width and the height of the cave. I change where he's gonna spawn in the cave. I set loading to true. I set the area that I'm currently at cave. Then I change the music. This is another one you guys want to comment out if you're having issues with your memory. And then I just set my state to get game dot in world state dot set area, right? Why is this different to how I normally change the state? This is different because not only am I changing the state, but I need to specify what area he's going, because each state, o sea, in-world state will take regardless of what area I went into, but I want the respective area to be ticked, right? Just like the game setup checks what state I'm at and it ticks it, but the in-world checks which area I'm at and it also ticks it, right? So I created a method that I could specify an area and it would change my state to the in-world state while changing the area, right? So if I go here and I check set area, what it does is simply return a state and set the area, and it changes the current area to the area that I gave it, and I just return this. Why? Because this is made in the in-world state. So if I return this, what's it going to stay in the state to? It's going to change it to an in-world state, right? And once I'm in my in-world state, you can automatically see that I check if my current area is not null, then render that area. And that's why we're kind of doing both with this one method. We're changing the area and returning the state to allow the state manager to change the state, right? If we go back to here, that's what you can see. I'm going to set the state to get the game, get the in-world state, and set its area to something. And that will do both. That will change my state and set my area to the corresponding area.
Lo de handler.set además arriba X en world displacement, eso para poder reutilizar el código anterior. O sea, lo que está haciendo es cambiar.
No, this is changing where the player is going to spawn inside of the cave.
¿Y dónde es que cambia o sea, para que se mueva el screen, o sea, en el cave? Porque no, eso no es distinto. Exacto, el X offset. ¿Dónde cambia?
Yeah, mira, displacement and offset, same thing. This is the in-world offset or the in-world displacement, right? So that when I start rendering, when I change from the map to the in-world state, the render automatically switches from using normal offset or normal displacement to in-world displacement. So I'm changing the displacement because the displacement starts in 0. So I'm changing this displacement, the one that's currently at, to the cave area player X spawn. And these two variables, what they do is they move the map so that the player is now in the center of the screen because he never moves. So it moves the map accordingly para ponerlo donde tú lo quieres.
So, lo de el cave area es en cave true, eso es lo que cambia todo lo demás. El offset y todo eso.
Okay.
¿Dónde es que eso cambia automáticamente antes de
In the text, like,
el screen?
if you go to the in-world state, when you're rendering stuff here, vamos a ir al cave area. Because remember that now, for example, now I'm rendering the cave world. Now I'm no longer rendering the map. So if I go to the cave world and I go to the render, now you see that whenever I'm drawing an image, now I'm drawing it with the in-world displacement. Now I'm no longer calling the other one. See, so depending what it is that you're rendering, they each know which one they need to use. So if you were to draw something inside of the cave, then you would use this displacement. But if you want to draw it outside, you use the normal displacement. Okay? Entonces, el in-world, what they do is that if I'm loading, it loads. If I'm not loading, I check if I press pause. If I'm not, just tick whatever area I'm at. And the render the same. If I'm not loading, just render whatever area I'm in. Right? So if I go into my cave area, you see that the cave area, it changes, it sets the displacement. I see this is the name thing I was telling you about. They each need to know their name, so this is something very necessary. Then I create a rectangle, which is the player. By entity manager, I add my two enemies. I add the light statue, which is technically an entity, right? Because it has its own animation, it has its own stuff. So that little statue is technically its own little entity. So I need to add him to the entity.
Basically, we can make the light statue to complete el spec de lo de la entity que te da pues.
Technically, you can just duplicate this outside, right? Because it needs to be outside of the cave, that spec. Exacto, that doesn't allow you to enter the cave.
Cuando pasa el quest, pues eso que estaba bloqueando, that's removed.
Exacto. So you can make it to be the statue, and once you can make it go inside of the cave, and now it lets you pass, right? That's up to you. Then I create a new list of cave walls, and I add all my walls. And just like the other one, there's my whole list of walls, right? And then my two doors are at the end. Okay? Entonces, that I think is pretty much it for the main area of the game. Then there's the fight state. ¿Verdad? This one I'm being less descriptive because pues, this is no longer your first project. So this se les va a dejar un poquito más para que lean por su cuenta. Simplemente les estoy explicando lo más importante. Okay? El fight state, unlike the other states, ¿verdad? Unlike the pause state, the game state, the menu state, there's only one of those. But the fight state creates a new instant of itself anytime a fight starts. Because each fight will be different from the last. Right? The whole beef and bone of the fight state fue diseñado por Gabriel. Toda la estética que ustedes ven, los cuadritos, all that pretty stuff, fue diseñado por Gabriel. Él fue el que también hizo que se pudiera mover. ¿Verdad? If you want to come up here y explicar lo que hiciste en el fight state, you're welcome. But, él está entregado ahí. Want to explain your fight state? Okay. So, ahí les voy a explicar. This is the beefiest class there is. Okay? This class is really long, really confusing. Él les va a explicar todo lo que funciona del movimiento, todo lo que él hizo. Y después yo les explico más un poquito la logística. Él fue también el que hizo todos los stats, todo lo de vida. Yo me encargué más que de la animación con la ayuda de Giovanni.
Bueno, en primer lugar, sorry, not sorry about that. Segundo, mi nombre es Gabriel, self-named Balance Team. Como José dijo, pues fui el que se encargó de creer cómo van a ser los stats, cómo van a funcionar las peleas, para que it's kinda, actually like a game. So, bueno, tenemos aquí el class, pues, fight state, where all the fights are gonna happen. Entonces, empezando por aquí, tenemos obviamente el constructor. El constructor recibe el handler, recibe el enemy y recibe el previous state. El player, pues ya el player está en el entity manager, so no se necesita. Entonces, una vez recibimos el enemy, pues creamos la instancia del enemy que se va a usar en el fight state para uno pelear. Tenemos aquí es donde se crea, y esto coge del enemy anterior, del enemy que uno va a pelear, pues coge todos los stats. Adicionalmente, a ese enemy que uno coge, pues tiene aquí este método que se llama Level Adjust, que de acuerdo al nivel que uno cree el enemigo, pues va a ajustar los stats para que se hagan adecuados. Tenemos el handler, con el previous stage, pues vamos a setear cosas como el background, y aquí está todo lo que tiene que ver con la música. So, previous stage, seteamos qué tipo de background, música cambia, y seteamos our two combatants, el player y el enemy. Both of them have their respective stats. Siguiendo por aquí abajo, pues como han visto en el fight state, tenemos background, players and enemies. Tenemos nuestro UI. Ahí es donde tenemos la información tanto del player, del enemy, como nuestras opciones para pelear. Eso lo seteamos aquí con el Set UI Manager, que si vamos ahí, tenemos nuestras tres opciones, que son Attack, Defend y el Skill. Eso pues van a llamar a sus respectivos métodos, y esas opciones las accesa tanto el player como el enemy, son algo exclusivo. Lo que es exclusivo es cuál va a ser el ataque y cuál va a ser el defense que cada uno va a hacer. Para el input, en el caso del fight state, como pueden ver, pues se usa el AND, el W and S are disabled, y eso lo podemos ver aquí en el player input. La idea de esto es que obviamente pues las opciones son tres opciones, todas son laterales, so no hay razón para tener el W ni el S, y dejamos el AND, si llega a either end no te deja moverte. El Enter es el que te va a dejar ir a la opción que escogiste, y tenemos en nuestros renders, que ahí es donde se pone esto asquerosamente largo, pues tenemos la opción que te va a decir, o sea, tenemos lo que te deja saber en qué opción estás. Ahora, aparte de lo divertido de esto, los renders. Tenemos un montón de renders en este método. Perfect, aquí estamos. Ok. Wait, no, not yet, my bad.
Si quieres agrándalo.
Voy, déjame llegar a la...
Double click aquí también para que...
¿Dónde?
Double click la clase. Ahí tenemos más espacio.
Ok, llegamos a nuestro main render. Here's where it's gonna get real complicated. Lo que hace el fight state tan beefy es gran parte de los renders. En este método pues estamos rendering background, UI, la información dentro de los UI, players, enemies, las animaciones. So it's a lot of stuff that's being drawn on the screen every moment, every take. En otras clases, como en el proyecto anterior, el render era un solo método. En este caso, como son tantas cosas, decidimos hacer un main render method, que es el que el TIC va a usar, pero dentro de ese render method, we're going to call the different renders. Ahí está el de draw character, draw entities, que dibuja al enemy, como pueden ver aquí. Tenemos draw info square, tenemos el character info, tenemos los draw entities, tenemos el fight banner y el debug, que pues eso es para cuando uno está modificando. El fight banner es de lo primero que uno ve, eso es bien sencillo, es la palabra fight, eso es un método bien sencillo. Tenemos pues los entities, eso nos va a dibujar tanto el player como el enemy en sus respectivas posiciones. Tenemos draw info square pues son lo que aparece en la parte de abajo. Actually, vamos a primero ver rápido el fight state. Should have done that first. Para que tengan una idea más visual de lo que estoy hablando. So aquí estamos, cuando uno entra en contacto con el enemy, entra el fight state. Ese fight es lo que estaba hablando ahora mismo. Como les dije, tenemos el background, la música cambia, a la de la pelea, los dos entities, sus respectivas animaciones de ataque o de salto. Aquí tenemos un entorno de los squares y esta es la información de la acción. Aparte de eso, tenemos el área principal de las habilidades, ataques, skill. Y como les dije, Ya aquí tenemos disabled la WAS y tenemos pues nuestras tres opciones que a medida de que opción que usted le señala todas las cosas. Con Enter la seleccionamos y pasa la animación que debe pasar. Seguimos. Bien, como dije, tenemos el render principal. Algo importante del render principal es esto. En el render principal es donde está este pequeño if aquí, battle over. Cuando se acaba la pelea, otras palabras, si pierde o gana, esto es lo que determina que se terminó la batalla. Y pues ahí entramos aquí, que es lo que hay, te va a llevar a la pantalla de game over o va a ser el fade para volver al mapa. En battle over, aunque esto es render, ocurren cosas que no tienen que ver con rendering. So eso es important detail que hay que tener en mente. Principalmente de sure, it's all rendering, but hay unos ciertos updates que como se está acabando ahí la pelea, pero ocurren un par de updates al player, meaning their health and their stats. Si uno hace level up, ahí en ese if es donde se hace el level up. Si la vida que tienes al final, y el MP que tienes al final de cada pelea, si ganaste, se restaura una parte, ahí es donde sucede. Those are the main things del player que se hacen update al terminar la pelea en ese método. Y obviamente el killing el enemy, para que no te vuelva a aparecer en el mapa, es cuestión de que rápido que you respawn entre otra vez en pelea y esté en un infinite loop de pelear until you die. Si seguimos por aquí, están los otros.
Es un método que lo remueve del mapa.
Sí. Básicamente lo remueve cuando vuelva al mapa, ya el enemy no está ahí. He's dead. Tenemos aquí Draw Entities. Sencillo, te dibuja los entities que uno tiene, el player y el enemy. El debug, pues esto es para cuando uno está debugging, modificando los stats. Tenemos el fight banner, como les dije, sencillo, hace un animation y scrolls down. Ok, character info. Aquí, como les dije, tenemos both entities y enemies, y aquí es donde uno tiene toda esa información. Como la han mencionado antes, el handler es importante para uno obtener pues, toda la información, en este caso el file state. Pero el del handler tú accesas la información del player. O sea, es importante que sepan aquí, pues, el mejor ejemplo de cómo se usa eso. Pero en otras partes del file state, si quieren hacer algo con el player o cambiar algo, pues van a usar el handler para llegar hasta el player. Se puede ver, por ejemplo, aquí tenemos el menú de get help para el enemy, para enemy.getHelp. Si vamos a ver el player, ahora aquí tenemos los handlers. Siempre que van a llegar el player en el file state, van por el handler, entity manager, player y lo que quieran hacer. Como les dije, el player ya está en el entity manager, pero eso no se crea una instancia dentro del file state. Eso pues tiene unas complicaciones dentro de Java que pues es más problemas de lo que it's worth. So, more lines of code cada vez que quieran accesar el player, but easier luego de que todo funcione. Info Square te dibuja los cuadrados. Aquí te dibuja las opciones. El UI Manager Render te dibuja las opciones. Player Input ya lo discutí. Ahora sí, the other fun part of all this. As you know, you are fighting en este método. Esa es la idea de esto. Es donde las peleas ocurren. Y pues tenemos tres métodos principales, tanto para el player como para el enemy. Attack, Defend y Skill. Attack y Defend are pretty straightforward, funcionan igual tanto para el player como para el enemy. La diferencia es pues, a quién están targeting. En este caso son diferentes. Tenemos lo que es, van a ver que tenemos Attack y E-Attack, que quiere decir Enemy Attack. So, aquí esto no tiene para obtener cuál es el target. Simplemente el que lo está casteando, el player, ataca al enemy. Esto pues tiene los cálculos de cómo es el ataque, que se usa los stats de Strength, Evasion del enemy y Accuracy. Con el main attack va a ser 3 veces el Strength y luego pues tienes 3 chances de sumarle el Strength otra vez. Tiene el Evasion funciona haciendo lo que sería coge un número de 100 random, y si ese número es menor que el evasion, the enemy evaded. Igual que el accuracy. El accuracy coge un número random de 20, si es menor que el accuracy, le suma el strength otra vez al ataque. So, siempre aquí es, si el número random that you get is smaller than el value in tu stat, it's a success. Think of it that way. Si está dentro del range de 0 a mi stat, it's a success. Luego de eso, pues obviamente el enemy pues, le reduce el damage usando su defense. Oh shit. Ok, ya. Aquí tenemos entonces, luego seguimos con defense. Defense es sencillo, sube la defensa del Magic Resist por una cantidad fija. Todos los otros métodos, por ejemplo, aquí pueden ver que sube por 15 la defensa y 4 el Magic Resistance. Pero todos los métodos del player hacen que se quedan si el enemy está en defense mode. Y si está en defense mode, le resta pues, su defensa y su Magic Resistance que se subió. En otras palabras, lo mismo pasa con el player. Si el player entra en defend, pues entra lo que sería el defend mode, y el enemy, una vez pasa su turno, pues le quita ese stats que se le añadió. Finalmente, las tres opciones que tenemos el Call Skill. Call Skill, pues saben que ahora mismo los players y el enemy tienen skills diferentes. El player tiene el de Ice, el enemy tiene el de Fire. So, aquí están hard-coded, no es como que hay otras habilidades. Si ustedes quieren, si van a añadir otras habilidades, pues you know que la animation, todo eso es hard-coded into Call Skill. So, tienen que hacer otro skill y que lo llame ese específicamente. El skill pues coge los stats de Intelligence, Magic Resistance y Evasion. Al contrario al ataque normal, pues tiene un ataque, por decir así, fijo, no hay un random number, que es 2 veces la inteligencia y se le resta el Magic Resistance del enemy. Y obviamente pues los chances de evade. El Enemy Turn, pues aquí tenemos un Super Advanced AI que se adapta como al tu estilo de juego, not really. El enemy pues tiene 3 opciones, al igual que el player, attack, defense y skill. Entonces los chances están divididos entre 2 probabilidades de attack, 2 probabilidades de usar un skill y 1 de usar un defense. So out of 5, 2 chances out of 5 de attacking, 2 out of 5 de skill y 1 out of 5 de defense. La idea con eso es que sea más dinámico, o sea que no sea bien passive. Y obviamente, al igual que el player, si el player no tiene suficiente mana para cast el skill, no te va a dejar. En el caso del enemy, si castea el skill pero no tiene mana, Dios vuelve a decidir esta vez entre attack o defense. Como dije, tenemos E-Attack, hace lo mismo que el attack del player, lo único es que pues, el enemy hacia el player. Lo mismo pasa con Defend, E-Defend, y lo mismo pasa con E-Call Skill. Y pues that's pretty much it, like that's a really fast overview of it. No sé si ya les dijiste, pero later se les va a dar un documento que tiene pues, la información más específica de cómo funcionan los stats, el leveling, difficulty levels y cómo funcionan cada uno de los attack, defend y skill en detalle. Entonces, si pueden ver, actually, un pequeño world. ¿Tienes cave abierto?
Suave.
No, yo creo que World Manager hay uno. Ok, ya. Ok, aquí estamos. Los entities, para que sepan, los stats, uno se los especifica cuando los crea. El skill, como esto está hecho, ahora mismo pues skill tiene, tú puedes poner cualquier nombre, pero saben que la animación que sale es la de Fire. Por eso es que todos ahora mismo tienen pues Fire. Sí, como les dije, si van a hacer algo diferente, pues tienen que asegurarse, por ejemplo, no asegurarse, pero if you want to make it right, pues cambiar el animation, etcétera, para que it goes accordingly. Los stats, pues aquí como pueden ver, HP, Mana, Experience, Level, Strength, Defense, Intelligence, Magic Resistance, Constitution, Accuracy, Evasion y Initiative. esto decide quién empieza en la pelea y esto se usa al final de la pelea para el recovery de health. Esos stats pues pueden usar los básicos que se les va a decir cuáles son. Anyway, ahí están los básicos de por sí. Y pues los pueden modificar ustedes de acuerdo a cómo quieran hacerlo, cuán difícil o cuán fácil. So that's the very quick overview. I'm the guy that you're going to complain to porque el juego está muy difícil or you don't like it. Nerf this person. I'm the guy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, I got a big help from all the other guys porque aunque yo lo diseñé, pero ellos hicieron a lot of the coding. So yeah, thanks to everybody.
Okay, so para ir ahora más detallado a la logística itself of a turn, what constitutes a turn? Okay, so essentially what I do in my tick method, right, is that first I check if the turn is bigger than the number of enemies, right? So if the turn is 0, is the player's turn. If it's 1, is the first enemy's turn. I did it this way so that if you want to implement a way to have multiple enemies in a fight, all you have to do is that they'll each have a turn corresponding to the max number of enemies, right? Right now, the number of enemies will always be 1. Right? If I go up here, pretty sure I set it to 1 somewhere. Somewhere in the constructor, I set it to 1. Point is that if you have 3 enemies, then turn 0 is the player, turn 1 is the first enemy, turn 2 is the second enemy, turn 3 is the third enemy. And when I go to turn 4, 4 is bigger than the number of enemies, so I go back to 0, so now it's the player's turn. Okay, so that's how the turn bases work. That's why if you turn on debug mode, it says turn 0, turn 1, turn 0, turn 1, 0, turn 1, because there's only 2 enemies. Okay, then I say, okay, so this is for the animation. This is in case that as long as the enemy has an animation, animate it. That's all I'm saying here. Then I put this temporary code here that this is the pause. Pausa. On a normal game, you can't just press pause and exit the game mid-fight, right? But the idea is so you don't get stuck in the fight state for debugging purposes. And then you say, okay, so if they didn't press pause, this is where the main thing comes in. If I have my managers down here that they're constantly checking if I pressed enter, right? One of these method, you can see, let's look for them. The attack, not the move, background select, here they are. So my UI manager, as you can see, I had 3 objects, right? Que eso lo explicó Gabriel. Pues on click, depending on which one I clicked, well, I didn't really click them with my mouse. But on select, depending on which one was the one that I selected, then I set that corresponding one to true, right? If I pressed enter on attacking, attacking will now equals true. Defense equals true, and skill equals true, right? So if I go back to my tick method, what I do is that first I check if I'm not doing any of them, but if I'm not mids of attack, mids of defense, or mids of skill, and the turn is more than 0, so it's not the player's turn, and the enemy's health is lower or equal than 0 and the fight is not over. This pretty much checks if the enemy died. So if I'm not in any turn, so if the player finished his turn, it's now the enemy's turn and it doesn't have any health, then battle equals over. Stop the music, play the victory music, and change the volume. Right? So that's pretty much it. If it's already the enemy's turn and he doesn't have health, finish the fight. If it's not if the enemy finishes turn, right? So if it's not enemy attacking, not enemy defending, not enemy skill, and turn is 0, so it's the player's turn now, and the player's health is lower than 0 or equal to 0, then I ended the fight. Right? So these are my 2 conditions that will end the fight. One of them has to be 0 while it's the opposite's turn. Okay, and then I check. Okay, so if the battle is not over, then I check if I'm not attacking, not defending, not skill. This is so you don't press enter twice and it attacks twice. Right? So if I'm not doing anything and it's my turn, then check for the player input and take the manager. So check if he inputted anything. Else, so if it's If the enemy's not attacking, not defending, and not a skill, and it's their turn, then I give it a small second, right? This is so the enemy doesn't choose instantly something, right? I want to give it a little bit of a frame so that every time the turn changes, there's a little bit of a pause, right? Just to keep momentum. This is just visual. And then I check the enemy's turn. The enemy turn was explained by Gabriel, right? And the player input though, what the player input does is that it also checks the cooldown. So just because we want a cooldown there. And then I checked if we pressed either of the directions and whatever, right? That's just same thing he explained, how everything movement works. But if I go to my render right here, right? If it's my turn, right? And I press skill and I have enough mana, then I call skill. If I'm attacking, I call attack, and if I'm defending, I call defend. Okay? This is because the moment I press enter, one of these will flip through. So this 60 times a second will enter that attack method, or that skill method, or that defend method. And what will indicate my turn ending depends on the corresponding class. So if you notice here, you say while first I want the animation, right? So this first bit is for the little sword animation. So while that animation has not finished, then start ticking it and drawing it on the player. The moment it finished, then now I want to do the little run, right? Because it's the next thing that happens, the little animation, then the run. So then I say, okay, add the movement speed to the player. So every frame, move him a little bit, whatever this variable is. Then I check if he's outside of the screen, and if he is, I set it to the opposite side of the screen, right? So si salió de la pantalla, teleport him to the beginning, right? Because that's what he does. He goes like this and teleports, right? So I teleport him to the other side. I do the calculations que Gabriel les dijo, right? And then I check if the enemy is within this small radius. Pretty much, once he appears here, remember he's still going to start moving forward. So the moment he pretty much isn't where he started, that's what this line is saying. The moment that player is where he started, then, it's right here, sorry, it's this one, my bad. The moment that the player is where he started, I give him a small little range, then I set it exactly where he started, attacking is false, and then turn equals true, right? And then I say, so if I ended my turn, or the battle is over, right? Then attacking is false, and turn equals false, raise the turn by 1, tell the enemy that he wasn't attacked, I reset the animation, and if the enemy was defending, now I lower his defense because the turn is over, right? So that's how the turn works. But now since the turn is 1, now I no longer enter to the player, now the enemy chooses. And the enemy goes through the whole procedure if he pressed attack. Defense, on the other hand, is just the animation, and the turn when it's going to finish the moment the animation finished. The animation finished, okay, now my defense equals false, and turn equals false, turn plus plus, and if the enemy is defending, lower his defense. Okay? And the skill is essentially the same thing, right? But instead of first animating and then running, simply run the animation, and midway through the animation, calculate the damage, and then once the animation is done, right, over here, once the animation is done, I turn equals true, and what these do is that if you notice, when you use your skill, the enemy's color changes, right? The player uses ice, so the enemy goes blue, then black, and then it goes back to normal. That's essentially what this is, that I want to change him back to normal, right? So I set the colors back to the top. And then if the turn ended, or the battle is over, same thing as everything else, right? But in the difference for the player is that you also want to take away 25 mana, right? And that's essentially how the whole turn system works. Okay, I do this until my animation finished. Then I say that the turn is ended, and I move to the next one. And now since it's bigger than 1, the enemy goes through the logistics of doing the same thing. And once an enemy finishes, it goes back to my turn. And that goes back and forward until someone drops dead. Okay? And that's essentially what the fight state involves. Okay? Now we're gonna go to the specs. Okay? I'm gonna read the specs to you guys. I'm gonna give you some tips in general. I don't think I have them in this computer, so I need to look them up online. Let's enter here. By the way, the live stream was being really iffy, so I was recording this whole thing, so this is gonna be up in Moodle, but it's not gonna be on YouTube because the live stream was really iffy and it just canceled halfway through, and I wasn't gonna go through the whole hassle of stopping and reinitiating and going through this whole issue. So tonight I'm gonna try and upload the video. Okay, so if we go down to project assignment 2, Envy, and we open the specs. Okay, so due date is March 28. Instructions are as per usual. Okay, so the first one is adding a debug key F7 that turns the variable debug on. I already showed you what variable this is speaking of. You already know, because of Frogger, how to detect when a key was pressed, right? So it's essentially, if key was pressed, debug equals the opposite of debug, right? You can do something like debug equals not debug, and that will flip your value, right? Instead of writing, oh, if debug equals true, then debug equals false, and if debug equals false, debug equals true, what you can do is you can write debug equals not debug. And if debug was true, not makes it false, and it sets the value to false. Exactly, and just flip it instead of doing the whole conditionals, right? And you save yourself 4 lines of code. Okay, the next one, add a debug key that fills the player's health and mana, right? So just as simple, in the player's tick method, if key is H, then set health to this and set mana to this. You already have a max mana and you already have a max health variable. So you just do equal the health to the max health. Simple as that. Make it so that the skill option in the fight state, when pressed and the player has none, does nothing, right? That's what I was referring in the beginning. If you notice, the player says non-skill, but you can still press skill and something will happen, right? What I want you guys to do is that if that skill is none, then that key will do nothing, right? And se pueden dejar llevar por el enemy, because if I'm not mistaken, the enemy has an E skill. Actually, it's not an E skill, it's in turn. Enemy turn, that you say, let's see. No, I think it was removed actually. But essentially, it will be here, right? For the enemy's sake. Well, now let's say that I was doing it for the enemy, and it will be and not enemy dot get skill dot equals y ya saben. Entonces si es eso igual a eso, pues va a entrar al próximo. Essentially, you want the same thing with the player, right? If the skill equals none, then do nothing. And that would be where it sets it to true, right? Up here, if I find it, over here, before setting it to true, you need to check. If it's none, then you don't let it happen, right? Entonces they say, create a static entity and place it in the entrance of the cave, preventing the player from entering unless he has a skill unlocked, right? So essentially, this every time you talk with this entity, it's gonna do nothing until your skill equals not none, right? As long as the skill equals none, this entity will be standing in front of you. So every time you talk to him, he needs to tell you your skill is still none. But the moment that your skill is now ice, then he'll move, he'll vanish, he'll just poof into thin air, you threw the skill, whatever you want to do it. Put your creativity to flow. But the moment that it's no longer none, it'll disappear. However you want it. Okay? You can burn him if you want.
Como uno hace print un texto así que salga en Game World, con GDOT string.
Yep, GDOT drawstring. Okay, remember that everything is drawn in order, right? So if you put g.string and then you put g.drawImage over the whole thing, you're never gonna see that string. Okay, so if you're gonna draw a string and you want it to be on top of everything, make sure that it's at the end of your render method. Okay?
Y eso lo haríamos if collision doesn't collide con las static entities.
Yeah, you can check if a player dot intersects this enemy and he's pressing this button, then g.drawString, tal cosa. Y ya. Entonces, your static entity could have una variable que se llame being talked to. And when you press E and you're interacting with him, it goes true. And while that is true, then draw the string. And the moment you stop interacting, that turns false. That could be another approach, right? You can make a trigger of sorts. You went in, it's true. While it's true, you're drawing something because the entity render says if being interacted, g.drawString this. Then when you get out, it turns false. Right? Feature set 1. Also, the point of feature set 0, I know all of you are like, oh, that's really easy, whatever, why even bother? The point of feature set 0s is always so you get to familiarize yourself with the code. Right? That's also why I'm pretty much telling you where and what. Because the point of feature set 0 is not only give you a couple free points, but get you to explore the code, familiarize yourself. Because if you notice, all of these things are in different classes. None of them are in the same place. So the whole point of them has always been to make you familiarize to yourself. Right? For example, when we did Snake, uno de los features at 0 was change the color of the snake, change the color of the grid. You know, they're ridiculous things, but the point is that they're done in different places, and by the time that you do them all, you're already a little bit more familiarized with what is where. That's their whole point to them. Entonces, feature set 1, make a town that is available on the map interactive. Right? So that town you see up front, you need to be able to interact with it. It needs to have a collision so that when the player contacts it, it'll lead them inside the town. Right? So essentially you want to do exactly the thing that the cave is doing, but on the town. Pretty much you copy the door to the cave, you change its name, you change the coordinates, you change its size because the town is bigger, and that's it. Right? Then you also need to make another class. The town is already drawn there. You just have to make so that when you touch it, you go into the town. Just like the cave. The cave is there. But once you touch it, you go into the cave. Exacto. Pretty much, cualquier sitio, tú haces un cuadrado encima de las 4 casitas enteras, and if you enter it through any dimension, it'll teleport you inside. Okay? It tells you need to make at least one dynamic entity inside of the cave. Okay? So, you need to make at least one, and that dynamic entity, he needs to be interactive. Right? So, in other words, when the player touches him with a certain key in front of it, you need to be in a specific radius. Right? You can't just enter the town, el NPC por aquella puerta, y hundiste E, y él te sacó el pop-up. No, you need to be in front of him. There is a specific radius. The radius needs to be small. Okay? Of width and height. Aquí se está diciendo más específico. Whatever the size of the player is, that's how big the radius can be in front of the dynamic entity. Okay? So if the player is 64 by 64, there needs to be a 64 by 64 square, invisible square in front of the dynamic entity, that while you're standing in front of it, it displays to the player that he needs to press E, and once you press E, it'll display the message to the player of what it needs to do. Okay? Also, personalize your town. Okay? It can't just be a black screen. Okay? It needs to have houses. It needs to have streets. Okay? It doesn't have to be pretty. It just needs to be there. You can look them up from the internet. There's some sprites, I think, available in the project itself. Okay? But you need to make it look like a town. Okay? It can be a town with 2 houses, but it doesn't really matter. But it needs to have houses. It needs to have streets. It needs to be a town. Okay? Como que you can't just copy-paste the cave. Right? You'll get deducted points for that. It needs to be your own, and it needs to look like a town. Okay? Entonces, feature set 2. Feature set 2 is the quest. Make it so that dynamic entity inside of the town provides you at least one quest. right? Goes along with what I was just saying. When you go up to him, you press E, it'll show you your quest. This quest involves fighting and defeating an entity around town with a specified name. So, for example, if it tells you go kill a common rat, when you go outside and you kill an enemy, it needs to make sure that this quest will only be completed if you killed the one that said cave common rat, right? The ones inside the cave that says cave crawlers, if you kill that one, the quest shouldn't be completed. Okay, that's something we're going to check, right? If we don't kill a common rat, the quest is not going to be completed. Okay, so it's very important that you make sure that the names coincide. Okay? Entonces, upon defeating the enemy, the player must return to the entity and it should know you completed it. Okay? So if I defeated the enemy before going to the town, then you need to go to the town, he needs to give you the quest, and then if you talk to him again, the enemy was defeated, right? So if I just started the game and I go and I defeat it and I talk to him, you can't skip straight to the completed, right? He first needs to give you the quest, and if you already killed it and you talk to him instantly again, then it will detect it as complete because you already killed it. Okay? Like any other game logic. Entonces, dice, upon defeating this enemy, the player must return to the entity and it should detect the thing complete. Upon completion of the quest, this is feature set 3, then your skill should change from none to something like ice. ¿Verdad? Ice will be the more logical because that's the current animation it has. Right? And it needs to tell you. Right? It needs to tell you now have your ice skill. And it needs to change it. And if you change it correctly, you should be able to press start, stats, and your stats should now display ice. Okay? That's how you know you did it correctly. Because in your stats, it will change. Okay? Those stats update dynamically. They will always show the information the player class has. Always. Okay? And then it says, make it so that the skill is set to none. ¿Verdad? Esto es la más explicación de lo que les dije al principio. Que si está none, nothing should happen. If it's on ice, then now it can happen. Right? And then it says, make it so that the static entity in front of the cave can detect on a radius of height and width again. Right? You can't all the way from the other side of the map interact with him and make him, just detect it. You need to be in a radius of 64 or whatever the size the player is in front of him for him to be able to detect once you talk with him that you have the skill. It can't be automatic. It can't be you got the quest, he's no longer there. No, you need to talk with him. Right? You go, you interact with him, and once you interact with him, now he disappears because now your skill is no longer none or whatever you want him to do. Right? And that is it. Okay? That is it for the specs. They're short. Okay? The feature set 0 is really easy. And the best tip that I can give you guys, maximize your points. Okay? Maximize your points. Maybe you don't know how to do the quest, but you know how to put the entity in the world. You know how to put him to tell you something. You know how to put this other entity. Right? So maximize your points. Do as many bullets as you can. Right? It's not per feature set. It's not all or nothing. It's not you get all features at 0 or none. Right? Each bullet tiene un costo específico que I'm not entirely sure si lo vamos a dar la rúbrica desde ahora o se la vamos a dar al final. Either way, si se la dan desde ahora, pues mejor todavía. Pueden ver cuánto vale cada cosa y pueden maximizar sus puntos hasta más todavía. ¿Okay? Pero eso es bien importante. Yo vi mucha gente en Frogger que just would give up on a whole spec line just because they couldn't. And we get partial points. We get points for specific things. Okay? So just do as much as you can. Hey, I won't be able to make it die on water, but I'll be able to make it die when it touches the floor at the bottom, right? So you do it. I'm not able to make it survive with the hazards, but I can make it die every time it touches water. Hey, those are the little things that we see. Hey, at least this person tried it. And then we try to deduct less points. Okay? So that's very important, guys. Maximize your points. Okay? That's something.
Can you tell them about the presentation thing? The presentar el momento.
Huh?
You want to tell them about the presentar el momento? Should I
Not now. No. Because como que we're already relatively running short.
Y el entity manager.
Okay.
Si no, no hablamos de entity manager.
It's alright because it's the same. It's the same as Frogger. Relatively. So it's pretty much.
Yeah. In the last bullet point, I was confused
Oh.
because just to make sure the order and succession in which events should unfold is that in front of the cave, there's already an entity that doesn't let us pass.
Yep.
Then we go into the town, collect our quest, leave, complete the quest, whichever it may be, return, give it in, then acquire the skill, to then go to the cave and then be given access to it.
Pretty much. Right? You don't need to go interact with him to be able to get the quest. Right? You can just straight up go complete the quest and then talk to him and he'll disappear.
So, yo sé que el quest era en el world map, que mandabas algo ahí, entonces pues, o sea, lo ves en el town que tengo que hacer un quest.
And in town, exacto. You need to go to town, get the quest, go outside, kill the enemy, then come back inside, claim your reward. Or kill the enemy, go in, get the quest, get the reward, go outside. Right? That's more or less the logical order here. Yes. There's a dynamic entity inside of the town that gives you the quest. The enemy is outside. Okay? Entonces, so yeah, enemies outside, quest givers inside of town, a dynamic entity blocking the road is in front of the cave, so in the map. Okay? El que te da el quest. He can be whatever the hell you want. He just needs to be dynamic, so he can move around. You know, the difference between dynamic and static is that dynamic interacts, moves, and everything. Static is just there. ¿Verdad? Static doesn't talk. Static just, ¿verdad? Te puede dar un mensaje, but it's not talking. Like, you know, it's a rock or it's something that can't talk. That's not dynamic, right? We're dynamics. This is static, right? But, you know, you can make it so that there's a table. You interacted with it, salió un mensaje. This is just a table. You know, it's static, but it's displaying a message. So that's what I mean. The static entity will display a message. Oh, you need a skill to pass or whatever. It doesn't need to display a message. It's just something to indicate you that he won't let you pass until you have the skill. Right? Yeah, but that would be the dynamic inside of the town. Right? That's simply the difference between dynamic and static. Dynamic can move, static can't move.
Dentro del town hay que ser un dynamic entity que te regale el skill.
Que te-
Un cave.
Exacto. Pretty much.
Y el enemy que tenemos que hacer, eso también es dynamic, no es static.
The enemy is already created. It's just, you need to, like, you can create a new enemy, and that can be your quest if you want. But there's already enemies, so you can just say that your quest wants you to kill that enemy that already exists. Right?
And in front of the cave, the entity would also be dynamic, considering that it's talking to us. And
I guess it could be static, right? It could just be a static entity that you can interact with. En verdad, normally the difference between dynamic and static is that I have a base dynamic and a base static. But I don't think that in this project I have a base dynamic. Do I? I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Ah, yeah, it has base dynamic and base static. No, yeah, base static. See? That's the difference. So whatever is outside of the cave needs to be in here. And it needs to extend from static. It needs to extend from this one. And whatever is inside needs to extend from this one. That's why the difference in name. It's what you need to extend from. Right? I don't want to see something outside that extends from dynamic. Because I told you that had to be a static one. Right? Es como que I know logically speaking, it doesn't make much sense. But the whole purpose is to get you to work with two different things. Right? It's not the optimal. Optimally, you want the thing outside to also be dynamic because you're interacting with him and whatever. But I specifically put it static to get you to work on two different types of classes so you can see the difference. Okay? That was the idea behind it.
cuando después de hablar de la experience, al tener el skill, en esto no desaparece de una manera especial.
Como tú quieras. If you want him just to stop being rendered, you can make him stop being rendered. It's like, if you want him to blow up into smithereens, he can do that. If you want him to just walk into the cave, you can make it. It's up to you. The specs don't specify how he needs to disappear. Okay? Lo que mencionaba, hay un par de cositas que I skimmed over my code. Yes? And I did that on purpose. This is the second project, so I guided you guys less. I told you what the beefy parts did, the fight state, how the world worked, and the general aspect of it. Pero, unlike Frogger, pues I'm not going to go line by line specifying absolutely everything. Como mencionó, aquí hay entity managers, que I think que en Frogger no había nada que te manejara todos los entities. Eso es algo que tienen que mirar más o menos cómo funciona, but you don't have to completely understand it, right? Sabes que el entity manager is what's going to hold all of your entities. So, después tienes que ir más detallado para que veas cómo funciona. El interaction between the player and the enemy. Yo no expliqué que cómo pasa esa interacción. Es otra cosa que tienen que mirar para que vean cómo pasa. ¿verdad? You don't necessarily need to completely understand it, pero, you know, los va a ayudar, okay? Everything in those specs, except for the, I guess, interaction of dynamic entity and player, there's examples of it outside, okay? The town has the cave, the static entity has the statue, you know, everything has an equivalent somewhere else in my code for probably except the quest giving and the interaction with the dynamic entity. You know, so that is quote unquote the hard spec, making him give you the quest, accepting the quest, and completing the quest. Okay, that is your beef ahí. Pero todo lo demás pretty much has something para dejarte llevar. Okay, so technically speaking, almost everything can be done without completely understanding the whole code, just simply by dejándote llevar. Okay, I think that's all that I have to say about the code. If you have any questions about any method in specific, about any class in specific. Otra cosa que quería mencionar es que en Frogger, el whole F7, JMP, audio cambiando, todo eso fue programado por Jovan. Él quería estar aquí y no pudo porque tiene examen de data. ¿Okay? Pero todo ese código de que empezaran a aparecer, la música cambiara de repente, que hundieran el detection, esconder las clases para que no las pudieran encontrar, cambiar los nombres, todo eso fue él. ¿Okay? Everything that has to do with Easter egg a ese nivel fue él. Yo fui el que hice la parte de afuera, ¿verdad? Que estuviera el código encriptado, que les llevara a la página, todo eso, lo demás, fui yo. ¿Ok? Eso es otra cosa, because credits are where credits due. ¿Ok? Entonces, ¿verdad? That's pretty much it. Ese Easter egg was fun. I had like 4 people, I think, only reached the end, more or less. A lot of people gave up halfway through. ¿Verdad? I was sure que una vez lo tiraron por Piazzi, por todos lados, lo de JMP, whatever, que la gente se iba a poner a mirar qué rayo significaba esa extra letra, but nobody did. I was surprised. Pero, mira, keep your eyes out. Puede que aquí haya algo, puede que aquí no haya algo y yo estoy haciéndolo para el tercero. Who knows? But keep your eyes out, ¿ok? Eso es lo que les recomiendo. I think del proyecto itself, do you guys think I'm missing something? Think that pretty much covers it all. ¿Verdad? Even though there are only 2 people of the team, this is a 6-people team. Okay? And most people coded something, ¿verdad? Todo el mundo cooperó de alguna forma o la otra. Todo el equipo de devs que está en el Discord son los que estamos encargados de los proyectos y todos contribuyen de una forma o la otra. Okay? Es que some of them just couldn't be here. Okay? Any questions? Anything you have to ask me about the last project, about this project, about anything in general?
Yo vi lo de Pokémon, o sea, que estaban flying through, but hay algo antes with eso.
Yeah. Como que, ¿verdad? I can guide you guys through it ahora. Essentially, les voy a enseñar la logística. ¿Verdad? Entonces, in case anyone was wondering, esto que sale aquí, esto es de IntelliJ, ¿verdad? Eclipse no hace esto de especificarte qué es el nombre de ese valor que tú le estás pasando como parámetro. That's why IntelliJ is better in every single way. Okay, so essentially, cuando ustedes abren el juego y hunden F7, el código les dice acá abajo, some gibberish, enter code, please enter blah blah. If you notice, esto y esto are the same thing but backwards. And what it says there is base 64. If you're curious and you go into the internet and you write base 64, base 64 decoder and encode. It's a decoder and encoder. So if I go here and I open this and I write some random number and I press enter, incorrect code. But if I press F7 again, JMP, enter, it changes, and now it says correct code. Right? And all the little things flying around. And if you look here, now you have some gibberish here, which is identical to this quote-unquote gibberish, and you have this too. So if you go and you take this one and you're like, okay, then let's decode this, and the decoder that was given to us, and you press decode, you get pastebin. But what the hell can you do with that? That's not a complete site, so you must be missing something. If you remember, you have this other bit here. Base 64 is known by having two equal signs at the end, right? So almost always that you see two equal signs at the end of a string, that typically means that it's encoded in base 64. So if you put then there, you get this paste bin, right? And if you enter paste bin, also another thing is that I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple days before Frogger was released, I posted a piazza saying something about a key that if you pressed randomly, it'll spell check a program for you. Okay, that goes to show what can happen if you press randomly keys through your program. That was a hint at this. Otro hint, porque I also posted a bunch of random shit in binary, right? But if you enter this paste bin, if the internet decides to cooperate with me, it's a paste bin that has a big binary text, right? And if you translate, there you go. It says having fun, and it gives you a binary. And if you go binary to text, gotta be careful. And over here, and I convert. You made it this far, keep your eye out for the time, inform the creator of this. And if you send me this through email, I would start the message, and I keep in mind the people that reach the end. Right? So that's the logistics, right? You gotta think outside the box. Almost 99% of the things I do and I program into a project have a reason. Okay? Some might be just to throw you off. Some. But most of them have a reason to be there. Most files have a reason to be there. Okay? Entonces, that was it for Frogger. It was quite simple. It was to introduce you. It was to get you on the spirit. Okay? Now is your task to keep your eyes out and see if maybe there's something in the second one. Or if maybe I just left it off for the third one for a big finale. Who knows? Right? But those who do find things will be rewarded. How? That is yet to be seen. Okay? Y pues sí, entonces, if you want to see... Bueno, pero yeah. That's pretty much it for this. I'm going to stop the recording here.